very much. Okay, we will wait for a moment and tell you about it. Okay, this is our next PowerPoint about the introduction framework and the issues, and also the first part of our theoretical foundations, namely the part about educational theory. And I have talked about what is this complexity concerning education and social development in the perspective of development study and vice versa in the eyes of education study. So we will include theoretical foundation and empirical case study. And we would like to explore and illustrate the interwoven relationship. So our discussion. So education and social development to be positioned, and the approach would be incorporating all social and human sciences approach, namely the historical approach, the philosophical approach, the comparative method, the qualitative and quantitative method. And the newly cross-border studies such as globalization. Forget it. And all the cross-border studies, such as globalization study, gender study, community study, and so on, should be incorporated in this program. And this course uses the developmental approach in the sociology as the first stepping stone to build our framework. This is the one of the civilizing process theory by Norbert Elias. We will discuss it at the end of our theoretical part. This is all for review, so I should go faster. Today is human capital versus educational capital, about the capital theory. And next, about literacy. So, as in next week, I should invite one team to make your presentation of the literature about literacy. It's very interesting. I think a literature about literacy. So I will, as in next week, I will upload each week one article. Not too much, not to be your burden, but for you to read and to present. So you don't have to worry about it. I might upload other things as reference, as your reading material if you want to second or English. So, and then the competitiveness doctrine, the build on the idea, and so the alias sociology of education and of symbol. So we have talked about this and we will discuss the real social issue concerning education. And this is the sociology of education. We will come back to this later. Okay, and the PowerPoint from this week is this one. Okay, education, capital, literacy. Last week I had very few time to talk about educational theories because I want to emphasize the basics of our course. So I have used 3 weeks to build your basic framework. I think it's time to go fast this week. So I should talk about education, no theory, more or less, this week. So this section is the first part of the theoretical foundations of this area. And when we talk about theoretical foundation, it certainly doesn't mean that it's boring, it's abstract, it's nothing to do with the reality. No. It's much more interesting than reality. What is reality? Statistics, case and case, and chaotic, very, very chaotic if you don't have your way to deal with the materials. The theory is very, very interesting. Abstract? No. If you think theory is abstract, that might because first, you don't learn it properly. Second, you don't learn the proper theory or proper theoretical thoughts. So we must consider what concept do you use and how you form this concept. We call it conceptualization. And what's the practice? This is P practice. What's the practice of the social world concerning to this theory, and what's the social process, and how can we develop our critical perspective? So educational theory, we'll come back later, and I will discuss with it so long as I have the time. In educational theory, some key figures and their thoughts will be briefly introduced to illustrate the central problems in education and education studies. And some key figures, for example, the top 50 thinkers in education study, for example. And we have many approaches to in this area, the institutional educational theory, the institutional approach, the normative, the critical, and other. Institutional, how is this country's educational system had been built? What is the structure of the educational system? The ministry, the universities, the schools, the teachers, and so on and so on. And how are the courses being arranged? How are the students and the teachers asked to do their obligations? And normative is education ought to be blah 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 blah. Education should be the foundation of a democracy. Education should be, as you have said, very helpful in the social development. Anything with ease and anything with ought to be. And the critical is combine both. We must find something not so easy to see, but behind the appearance. And we must look into what hidden behind the appearance. And we must analyze. We must make our analysis about it. So it's the critical approach. And some critical approach has their own normative or their own descriptive issue, and this in opposition to normative, actually it should be descriptive. So it should have some descriptive, institutional or historical analysis along with our normative ideas and in a critical framework. So, John Dewey as an example. Has anyone no idea about who John Dewey is? So everyone knows who he is. So that means I can ask you. You should raise your hand. I say, who has no idea? I have no idea. Please don't ask me. You should not. John Dewey. Who got the idea? This time I ask, who has an idea who he is? The one introduced his thoughts into China is called, not just one, many famous scholars, many celebrities introduced his thoughts into China. For example, Hu Shizhi introduced his thought. And in Chinese translation, Du Wei, got idea? No. And you don't know who Hu Shizhi is? Really? You just know his father, but nothing to do with him. You don't know Hu Shizhi is. Really? This time I was shocked. I am shocked. Hu Shi, you have no idea who he is. And I will talk to you about John Dewey. Oh, it's difficult. It's too difficult. And have you ever heard about the principle of the modern China should be the Mr. Science and the Mr. Democracy? Have you heard? And Mr. Science and Mr. Democracy was promoted by Mr. Hu and many other leading figures in the so-called the Fourth Man Movement. I am curious whether your mother language Chinese or perhaps you come from other cultural cultural circle, so you don't have any idea about what happened in Chinese speaking circle. Okay, we will come back to this. It depends how many times left. And about critical pedagogy, this is the main effort by many professors in this university. If you have learned something with education, and if you concern more or less the education study in Taiwan, you should know that the National Pingtung University, the former National Pingtung University of Education, is not to be underestimated. Here is the headquarters, the main station of critical pedagogy. And this concerns many professors. For example, Professor Yu Jinxu, Professor Wang Huilan, all is in this area. And this we should discuss it next week and at the second half of our course. So I move very quickly. Bring the education back in. It's a paraphrase. What it means? It means that I use a sentence already used by other scholars in 1984, long before you were born. In 1984, a very famous sociologist, Theda Skocpol, has written with other scholars a book about historical sociology, about sociology of state. So they label their collective work as bringing the state back in, because in 1984, in the area of state research, in the area of the historical sociology, state was underestimated. So they think state is very important. So they use and central to any historical research. Not just interest group, not just this and that group, but state. So they use bring the state back in the term. So later, other copy them, as I did now. As I do now, that many copy them. Bring the human back in, bring back in, bring back in. Okay. Bring the education back in, I mean, in the time of John Dewey, education played a central role to the whole society. They think through education we can improve many things. But nowadays, education seems not so central to all the social subsystems, but just a part as the others. So I think in our study we should really bring the education back in. So today, Capital, now it's your turn to make your presentation, and I will come back later. Ta-da. Please. Do you have any question to ask me? Perhaps later.
Today I am going to give a talk on the form of capital. And those are our group members. I do like to start by briefly introduce about the other.
Pierre Bourdieu. Pierre Bourdieu. French is French, not English.
He
Pronounce after me. Once again. Pierre. Together. Bourdieu. Pierre Bourdieu. Prima. You show me is better.
he is sociologist and anthropologist and philosopher. English center.
And remember, except for your name, wipe out all the Chinese in your PowerPoint. And remember to put your photo in your PowerPoint to remind me that this face is the face who had been so concentrated in listening. Okay. Go ahead. The form of capital.
In this article, he generally divides capital into three classes: economic capital, social capital, and the cultural capital.
Capital.
Economic capital emphasizes to earn profit and have profit right Typically, economic capital is
Moment, I forgot to remind you that you should sit together when you are of the same group, and you should make some notes. Each group, not each one. So each group sit together and make some notes. Now it's not too late. It's just a view and form of capital, and now it's economic. So each group has one sheet of paper and to make your notes. You can discuss with each other. What does that mean? And sit together and to make your notes. And as I have said, I encourage, but I will not push you or press you, but encourage all of you to read all the materials, to read all the readings I give to you. So if you have read it and you listen and you make notes, and then we could have some more talk. Okay, go ahead. Economic capital. Go on.
economic capital is calculated by determining the amount of capital that the firm needs to ensure that its related balance sheet stays solvent over a certain time period with a perspective. Probably, therefore, economic capital is often calculated as value at risk. The balance sheet in the case will be prepared showing market value of an asset and这个很难念，是我自己写的，但是很难念。资本主义跟重商主义。
Remember to have your practice before you present. And nowadays, you can, if you don't know how to pronounce it, it's easy to Google and make Google pronounce for you. Do you know the way? Okay, and you can practice a lot before you present. So there is capitalism, and you pronounce it as 100 times capitalism, or do you prefer French or German, Kapitalismus? Okay, and you pronounce it 100 times, it's no more problem. Okay, we are going to the social capital.
Social capital.
Look, now you pronounce capital much better as you firstly pronounce it.
Thank you.
Pretty much. Very good.
Pierre Bourdieu defined it as a great aggregate of the actual or potential resources which are linked to position of a global network of more or less institutional knowledge, relationship of mutual acquaintance and recommendation. Social capital is pay attention to interactive between people, and the more trust, the more capital in a social society.
Okay, go ahead. Our main concern lies on the cultural capital. Okay, go on.
Yes, we are going to talk about cultural capital. And in this article, the other one point will happen that the unequal scholastic achievement of children originating from the different social classes. And it also is based on their academic success. So he can research and advance it into essay. So in this article, he separated cultural capital into three parts. The first, the embodied state; the second, the objectified state; and the third, the institutionalized state. And first of all, we are going to talk about the embodied state. It's the form of long-lasting disposition of the mind and body. This kind of capital has been accumulated unconsciously, like your native language, your personality, your temperament, so on. And you receive it from your family, the society, or even school. And it's deeply rooted in your mind, become the habitus. And when you accept it, you are combined with the native one automatically to become more strong competence. And of course, this kind of cultural capital, it takes time. And it cannot be transmitted immediately like economic capital or social capital. And it has a close relationship with the objectified state, like your text for item. And the second part of cultural capital is the objectified state. It's the form of cultural goods, like pictures, books, dictionary, instruments, machines, so on. In other words, those stuff carry knowledge and skills, and when you own it and use it, you will get those from cultural goods indirectly. But the precondition is it must have access to the first kind of cultural capital, the embodied states. For example, the painting of Monet. If you don't know the history of art or his life, in your eyes it's just a painting. Or if you know it, you will know how meaningful it is. And in this article, the author reminds us that it is symbolically and materially active. And the most effective capital is depending on how you appropriately use it and take it as your tool to more high level. And the final, the institutionalized state, is based on lawful institution to guarantee every qualifications. In this cultural capital, people get more higher academic capital or qualification. It's more competitive. It's also a process of conversion between cultural capital and economic capital. How? It's happened on the labor market. When the company chooses the person they want, what were they concerned about? One of the factors must be your certificate. Just this moment, it happened that cultural capital transformed into economic capital. So get a diploma is an investment to get more competitive in the labor market. The last, the institutionalized state. Remark remark your society state, and it's a phenomenon to make the embodied state into a real thing, to prove that you own that. These are referring. Thanks for listening.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And before we have still 7 minutes, and I should ask some questions to this group and to other groups to think about it and to answer on your notes and to tell me next hour about. Can you just give me some examples of the size of what has you have seen? Other examples. First, examples of economic capital, of social capital, of cultural capital. And the second, we have talked about it as so early as we began our course. Namely, I have talked to you. This course itself, for English course, is itself one very interesting research agenda of the course. Why should we have a full English course? It's difficult to read, it's difficult to listen, it's difficult to pronounce, it's difficult to discuss. Why bother to have a full English course? Answer me using Bourdieuian concept. Economic capital, social capital, and cultural capital, especially cultural capital, and their 3 states. After 10 minutes, so I think we should begin our pause earlier because now it's a pause. Or maybe I should give you some introduce of the person Bourdieu. Pierre Bourdieu, 1930 to 2002, professor of sociology. When Bourdieu died at 2002, and all the European newspapers made it their headline. He is not just a professor, he is Pierre Bourdieu. He had joined many anti-neoliberal globalization movements. He was very active, and his thoughts and his theory had influence all over the world. The scholars, the students all over the world. So he is very important. So not just the newspapers, also the magazines. And you stood at the corner of the street and you look the news stand and all kinds of magazines, people who died, people who died. You cannot imagine in Taiwan. Okay. Professor of Sociology at the Collège de France, Paris, died on January 23rd, 2002, aged 71. His death made the headlines on the front page of Le Monde and inspired some tributes from all walks of French public life, not least the Prime Minister Léon Jospin, who had himself suffered the sting of Bourdieu's pen and tongue. You know, the Prime Minister was criticized so heavily by Bourdieu. And from the academic community worldwide, arguably the list of the great French intellectuals active during the second half of the 20th century, he remained active and productive to the end of his life. Whether one admires Bourdieu and he was capable of inspiring extraordinary loyalty and admiration or not, whether or not his standing as an intellectual of genuinely global significance is beyond question, widely regarded during his lifetime as internationally among the most important of social scientists. His theoretical legacy appears to be securely established. And so on, and so on, and so on. And then it introduced who Pierre Bourdieu is. His major contribution was to reject the increasingly aloof abstraction of grand social theory that came to be associated with the existentialist, Marxist, and structuralist traditions during the 1960s and early 1970s. In response, Bourdieu asserted the absolute centrality to social thoughts of critical, empirical research. So the anthropological roots, representation called him sociologist, anthropologist, and philosopher, were never neglected, and so on, and so on, and so on. So the theory, philosopher, epistemology, and philosophy of science. His institutional power base, Centre de Sociologie Européenne, is inspired and led a sustained program of interconnected investigations into many aspects of French life. And though early study in Algeria and rural France, and then education, stratification, consumption, and cultural taste, art, photography, literature, television, journalism, and so on. And the wide context of problems, globalization. This one's very, the weight of the world is a very, very important work by Bourdieu and his colleagues. Very, very big book. So deep. And the weight of the world. In original, La Miserie du Monde, actually should be translated into English as the misery of the world. The misery. You know Les Miserables, the musical Miserables. Misery. Very, very, very bad situation. So, but they translate it as the weight, which reads like a cross between Zola, Naive, and Telko. Okay, you don't know these people, no problems, go ahead. And he inspired many other scholars and also struck other notes. During the 1970s, Giddens developed his notion and very similar to Bourdieu's effort. And the final internationally significant dimension of Bourdieu's work was inspired in part by local French traditions and the philosophy of science, and so on. Okay. Many other things are too difficult for you to understand. He was born not in Paris, in Béarn, southeastern France, just in the near of Spain. For Bourdieu, Madrid is near as Paris, and he was the son of a minor civil servant who was more petite bourgeoisie than peasant. And in the early 1950s, he studied together with Derrida and the Hoy Laudrillard, among others, at the elite École Normale Supérieure in Paris. You know, we emphasize much on how important not to make distinction among you in Taiwan. We should encourage everyone to learn happily, without pressure and without delight or elate. And you are all equal. This is the new ideology since the educational reform 20 years ago. But in France, they are so highly hierarchicalized. The top one, the most brilliant students goes to only one university, only this one. And they are not just brilliant, they are most brilliant. And this one is what kind of university? Normal university. To be a high school teacher. Normal. Just as National Taiwan Normal University at Hebingdong, normal. Normal University. It's an École Normale. And who you might have heard, Michel Foucault, Raymond Aron, or Pierre Bourdieu, or Jacques Derrida, or the Hoy Laudrillard. This is a very important philosopher, and this is a very important historian. They are classmates. And each of them are the elite among elite. They are selected. You are used to read this paragraph when you come to study the French thinkers. Most of them had studied at the École Normale Supérieure. Okay, and he graduated as an agrégé de philosophie. But then he refused to write his dissertation and teaching for a year in the Provincial Lycée. This is high school. Bourdieu was a high school teacher, as many other French top brilliant elite. He was called out for military service next 2 years in Algeria, and he researched the life in Algeria. So his research was very, very interesting. He returned to France and he attended David's Force anthropology seminars and read Marx again and so on and so on. And Ahom, I have talked about Ahom. Ahom retired from the sociology at the College de France. Remember Ahom also from the École Normale. And in competition with Raymond Bourdon and Alain Touraine. And we don't have much translation of Raymond Bourdon and Alain Touraine in Taiwan. Alain Touraine, we have one or two very good translation of his work. So if you want to learn French sociology, not just Pierre Bourdieu, but also the others. So then he take the chair, sociology at the College de France. So he made his influence much widespread. So Marx's paper, Durkheim, structuralism, and Goffman's interactionism, and Wittgenstein's philosophy of language, and so on. Then his epistemology, and it's a philosophical concept. It means how to know things and how to secure your knowledge. And the logical practice we'll discuss is next hour. And the production of society through education. That's what society reproduce itself, and so on. And the language and culture and an overview. It's a very, very interesting introduction by Richard Jenkins. He himself is a very, very important scholar and translator. Okay, now I used too much time to introduce Bourdieu, the person, but I hope it's useful for you to know about this scholar, this very, very brilliant sociologist. Okay, now 10 minutes pause and you can discuss. Okay, 15 minutes. You should have 5 minutes discuss with each other. And okay, to the time 11:25, and we will discuss what you have written. Namely, first, give me some examples of the capitals, the 3 forms of capitals. And second, to say something about 4 English course in the framework of Bourdieuian concept or in our education and social development. Okay, now it's pause and it's Mandarin time. 现在问一下，你要什么时候？这一天我们。So, what is capital? It is, you can have your notes back and you can write further, please. Your notes doesn't need it. So, what is capital? Capital is a capital, but what is capital? What is capital? What is? Use the most simple explanation. What is capital?
Use money to earn money.
Use money to earn money. Any other comment? Trade. In the classical Marxist explanation, capital is not just money or what you learn or what you learn from trade or what you learn by money. Capital must have your from here. This is money and you buy something to produce your commodity and you sell them and you got much more money. So capital is this is capital. Not just the profit. Not just the profit. But in capitalism, the logic is maximization of profit. It's the logic of capitalism. But capitalism concerns with a specific structure, organizational structure to do this production. So it has to do with a specific organization of we call labor process, labor relationship, the relationship of productions and so on. But we don't have time to talk about capitalism or the capital concerning with material production. So everything has to do with money, and everything has to do with production, everything has to do with the material and so on. But in Bourdieuian concept, in Bourdieu's conceptualization, he expands the definition of capital. Not just money. Not just, not just economic capital. Remember what you have talked about economic capital. What is property right? Do you understand its meaning? It means that you have the right to own something. In the early communist regime in China, you don't have the right as an individual. You as a part of this country, the country owns many enterprises. But since Deng Xiaoping's reform, the individuals and the enterprise has begun to have the property rights. The property rights, you can own something. It's your own. You are not just borrowed from the states. So it's we call the basic human rights. Your life, your freedom, and your own needs. It means your own needs. So economic capital has to do with your own needs. And it can be economically estimated how much do you own. And you can put your capital to reproduce much more capital. following the logic of capitalism. But social capital is not to do with money, and the cultural capital is not to do with money alone. They are not to do with money alone. So, social capital means on the Facebook, you have 1,000 friends, or you have 10,000 friends, or you have 1 million fans. That's your social capital. Someone would argue that it is social capital, but someone would argue, no, it's not really social capital, but possibility to build social capital. If you answering all questions of your 1,000 friends, and you care about every little thing happen to them, you wear a new dress today, you have a new girlfriend today, and I know you think your professor has asked too much, and you care each of them, and you can build your social capital. Because your connection will be stronger and stronger. So someone would argue, when connection is strong, then it would be social capital. It is not money, but you can use that to have some benefit. So social capital is as economic capital for your use, for your benefit, to your benefit and for your use. But it is built not on money, not on economic means, but on social relationship. I have written one article for the Academia Sinica in its original Mandarin, 中央研究院. And I have written one article arguing that in Bourdieu's framework, just with Bourdieu against Bourdieu, I argued that social capital is not capital, but it is too difficult for you to understand. Even in Chinese, you would not understand what I have made, unless you have read much more about social capital, not just Bourdieu, but also others. Maybe someday, next semester or semester after that, maybe I will give you a course, a lecture. Social capital is listed in our program in the Department of Social Development. Social capital. Maybe in Chinese, okay, don't worry. I would not list social capital in a full English program. But social capital gives us many things to think about it. And the cultural capital, 3 states. You know state? Not the United States, not the Japan or Germany or Taiwan as state. Its condition is what you are now, what it is now. So what is embodied? It means body, your body, your body. So you know, when you look at this person, you think, well, this person is well educated from his appearance, from his behavior, from his bodily movement, from his talk. I judge that he or she is well educated. This person knows a lot of history, a lot of art, and he is so civilized. And he or she, and this person has some cultural capital embodied in his or hers mind and body. So this must be learned. You cannot, for example, if you win a lotto, you know lotto. L-O-T-T-O, you don't know lotto? Yes, lottery. If you win at the lottery and found this lotto, and you can suddenly be rich, just overnight, you are a millionaire. It's possible, right? But you cannot expect that overnight, and you know everything about Western history or the philosophy or the artworks or and so on. You must take time to learn, to incorporate all these things into your brain, your mind, and your body. Something must be learned through bodily practice, not just listen and think and think. You must do something. And it is not to be gotten overnight. It's not to be learned. It takes time. And the second, embodied, and the second, why is it objectified? What is objectified? Well, if you want to read the view, you must know what is object and what is objectified. And also objectification and so on. Okay, now just objectify. What is objectified? What is objectified? You could find nothing via Google. You could find, if you find the right page, you can find the right page. But I will tell you, it's much difficult for you to read. You can find just the dictionary translation. It is not useful. When you find something useful, then I must tell you, most of them are too difficult for you to understand. But you know object. This is an object. Or secondary. That's my object. That's my goal. That's my aim, to do something. That's an object. Or this thing, I as subject, and this thing as object. So objectification. When we talk about in this commercial, in this television commercial, Fernsehen is German. I would like to say Fernsehen. In this television commercial, I usually heard this kind of comment. It's bad. It's a very, very bad commercial because the women are objectified. They are not subject. They are not subject with their will, with their power, with their potential to do things. But they are waiting to be treated so or so. They are just as a table, as a chair, and so on. They are object. So objectified means something tends to be an object, to be a thing. And in this case, cultural capital, when it appears as not in your brain, not in your mind, not in your movement, not in your, you can make the Chinese tea or the Japanese tea, and you know everything about French wine, and you can do many things about the Western table manner and so on. You must practice and learn and incorporate in your mind. But the teapot itself And in the National Palace Museum in Taipei, it's a scene, it's a painting, it's something you can touch naturally. Of course, you cannot touch them. It's forbidden, but it's something with physical existence. Something as object, it means objectified. So a building, an artwork, they are something, not just a physical stone, not just a physical paper. They are paper, they are clothes, they are stone. No. That are only their objectified form in stone, in clothes, in paper, but they are, in fact, cultural capital, but objectified. Okay, and the third, you have practiced the pronunciation at home. The third. Institutionalized. Institutionalization. Institutionalized cultural capital. It means that it is admitted to be cultural capital through by an institution. So you got your license, you got your certificate, you got your qualification by university, by ministry, by Microsoft, or by English Center, and so on. And it proves you to have this kind of ability. And this has something to do with, naturally, with the first form, but not necessarily the same. Many cultural capital embodied have no license to get. Some have license to get, but not all of them. Something is not to be gotten in the form of license, in the form of a paper to prove you are a gentleman. Have someone tried to get a license to be a gentleman or to be a lady? For example, the trendy drama now in Taiwan and in mainland China, My Big Lady. Have anyone heard of this trendy drama? With the actor and actress Ai Zhixiang, Han Yixuan, My Big Lady. None of you have seen so many trendy dramas as I. It's curious. I don't know why. It's not important because the trendy drama is not good. It's not to be recommended. But it's the same issue. Could you have some license to prove that you are a lady in the high society or you are a gentleman in the high society? How can you get that qualification? No, there are no such qualification. So it belongs to the first form. But you can get some qualification to prove that you are graduated. You are graduated from a university. That's okay. You will have one very important sheet of paper. Yeah? And this paper is very, very important for you. It proves that you are graduated. By something you cannot get this kind of proof. Okay, so which body we have talked about and why body? Why capital in our framework? Because capital analysis encourages us to look at what education is. Education offers cultural capital. but in which form, or in many forms, or through what channel, through what ways to give us what. And this is for us to use, to benefit us as social capital or economic capital. So if you are graduate from university, you earn more than someone else who are graduate from high school. That means your cultural capital helps you to have more economical capital, not directly but indirectly to help you. And if you have many friends, and they will offer you some advice and to have you the opportunity to earn much more money. And they will introduce you some new client if you have your online shopping and you have so many friends with very strong connection. They will introduce to their families and friends. That online shop is very good. You should buy their product. So your social capital help you, not directly, but indirectly help you to have your economic capital. And if you don't have the money to go to university, you lose the chance to build your cultural capital because you don't have economic capital, you don't have money to have cultural capital. So they are mutually connected, not the same, but mutually connected. And you can transform in a very complicated way to help the other to build. It's very interesting for us to understand from this kind of analysis what education is and how education play an interesting and central role in our society, in our social development. So, I have talked to you. I must go faster and faster, and now I use too much time to explain. So something must be dated to next hour. So next hour we have the presentation of literacy. Which group would like to take the job? I will upload the reading material today, and you have all of you have 1 week to read, and one group to make a short and comprehensive presentation. Which one? Okay, this one. Okay, then we will meet us next week, and we will discuss literacy. But I would like to remind you, I will more or less incorporate the formal elements into the next. So we will go back to cultural capital to discuss it. We will go back to educational theory to talk about literacy. Okay, now it's time to bye-bye. 你们到底对听懂多少？很好奇。今天讲比较快，听懂比较少。他们讲英文，听得比较快。他我们当面看。